Okay, welcome everybody. That's right. Welcome everybody. This is Eco Villages Australia, how to start a collaborative housing project. Welcome aboard everybody. Would you like to go around and just let us know very, very quickly where you're at, what you're doing and what you're thinking, and so I can sort of tailor my content to that. So Tony was on first.
So Glorious Mermaid and I and a few other friends are interested in just learning about different realities of how to go about living in sustainable, regenerative communities, basically.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lovely. And go Glorious Mermaid.
Glorious Mermaid checking in. We've just got cut. Been in lockdown for now 2 weeks. Pretty extreme one here in New Zealand, and that spurned on some conversations that have been ongoing for the last 5 years into a bit more reality, into actually putting some pen to paper, bringing some people together, and looking into this in a bit more of a serious fashion. And I'm here tonight. I came across you guys about 3 weeks ago, and I'm here tonight just to listen, learn. The CLT side of things is a bit different here in New Zealand, which I'm sort of going down the rabbit hole with at the moment. But yeah, I've just been here to listen and learn from you tonight.
So for those of us in Aussie, he's not putting pen to paper; he's putting pen to paper. So we just got to clarify that. So obviously, what I was just saying before that I have actually lived in New Zealand, but I certainly don't really know the structure there. And but I should be able to give you some pointers awesome. Because most of our Western world is the same, and we've got similar laws and council bylaws and that sort of thing. So yeah. Make sure we talk about that sort of thing as well.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, Jeff was next, I think.
Yeah, I'm with Dominic, Wild Desert Rose there. We're working on the same project, so we're busy planning stagecoach robberies. And once we have enough money, we'll buy up all the land. We're basically looking in New South Wales. We started out looking at multiple occupancy, and I suppose over the course of the last month and a half that we've been looking at this every day pretty much, we found that it's not an overly viable model for a couple of reasons. One, the duration of approval process. You could be sitting on land in your caravan for years waiting for approval and still get it knocked back. So it could cost time, money, and get nowhere.
Yes.
The other pitfall that we've come across with it is that there are cases that have happened where a financial backer has pulled out and sued to get their money released, and thereby put the solvency of the project in danger.
Yep.
So that's a risk. So we really like what Andrew's model. We were chatting to Andrew there, what was it, a week ago or a bit more?
I think so, yes.
Last week and a half. And we really like the model. So basically what we want to do is either do one of our own or maybe even jump in onto Andrew's model completely and join it. So we're looking at roughly, I suppose, 250 to 300,000 for land. For the first tranche, that would cover the land, it would cover the water, electricity, stamp duty, and architectural drawings. And we go for a single occupancy, basically a villa or a ranch, for want of a better description, where you've got the main dining, kitchen, you've got a series of large bedrooms, say 7 meter long by 3 to 4 meter wide. So it's enough space to have half of it as your bedroom half and the other half kind of as a study, living room, whatever you want to do with it. And that's your personal space. Make it in a large courtyard and enclosed with retaining walls filling in gaps between buildings. You'd have your shared shower block, your shared human manure block, shared laundry, all those kind of things, and a kitchen block and a grey water system behind it. But by having it all enclosed, it would then give you a couple of advantages. One, you'd be able to use it for growing herb and vegetable gardens in a more protected environment from wildlife, but also a more protected environment from strong winds. So there's and closeness of being able to get to it as well. So there's a couple of advantages in designing it that way.
Cool. We might keep others on the check-in, Jeff. So yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Is it Talalia?
Nice to meet you. Okay, so I started my interest in this reading a book about Danish eco-villages or Danish communities. I think they're very successful, as we know, and they've just gone gangbusters over there because they're smarter than us, obviously, I should say. And I know there's a few. There's one in New South Wales called Shepherd's Bush or Shepherd's something. They've got a couple of lots going. I'm really interested in this, but I want to understand your model and how it works.
Yes.
More than that, though, my vision is to try to bring this to mainstream, because my vision is that a lot of people would do it if they only could. And I have a vision of a cul-de-sac where it's just like a regular street and you have all the rights you would buying and selling, but the whole thing is on one grid. Like if the lights go out, there's a power bank for it. You know, the water, the electricity, everything there is carbon neutral. It's perfect. That's the vision I have, but I'm here to understand your model.
Sure. Great. Thank you. Who else we got now? The screens, people are joining, so the screen is flashing around now. Catherine with a K. Are you on just listening? Or is that Kat, who is my friend who I met today? Can you, I can't. Yep. Hello, Catherine.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I can't really do the voice and picture thing on my phone.
Okay,
at the moment.
that's fine.
I'm
That's
very
fine.
high-tech, but yeah,
But that is Kat. Great. Good on you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So I missed the question, but just basically why we're here, is it?
Yep.
So yeah, I've been interested in various forms of community living for the past few years and been traveling around exploring that. And now I find myself on the Sunshine Coast. Yeah, feeling pretty ready to activate that in whatever way, shape or form that looks like. So yeah, just sort of exploring a bit deeper and yeah, loving having chats with different people, including Andrew, about that.
Awesome. Thanks. Rod, are you able to speak?
Yes, Andrew, hey everyone. So how it came around, I think, Andrew, you've presented a bit of information in Narara the other week, and you know, lots of interesting concepts, and then I got the email and decided that it's perfect way to kind of know more about what you guys doing and about the model in particular.
Perfect. Thanks, Rod. And Catherine with a C.
Hello, everyone. Sorry for joining late. A friend emailed me this knowing that I was just at the beginning of researching eco-villages. Thank you for having me join.
Great. Thanks, Catherine. And Hayley.
Hi, everyone. Actually, I've been interested in eco-villages for a long time, and I've been down to the Currumbin Eco Village many times, just driving around, checking it out, having a coffee at the cafe. I just love the vibe there. But it's funny, I was speaking with some of the families in my son's homeschool co-op, and we all feel the same. Like we all just want to get some land and live together and just create, amazing little eco village of our own. So we literally had that conversation, and then like 2 days later, I got your email. So I thought, okay, that's a sign.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, guys. I think we've got everybody there, didn't we? Yep. I think everybody's there. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, apologies, Claire would normally be with me, but she's actually got a really sore eye, so she just can't do that. Can't come along today. So I'm on my own. I'm going to share the screen, and we've got a little keynote here. We'll see if I can actually. Can everybody see that now?
Mhm.
I'll try to do it full screen. Is that still working?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. So so we started Eco Villages Australia in 2018. We bought the property in 2019. This is the place in Maloney. I'm sitting here right now, 3.5 acres, very, very close to town, about 7-minute walk to town. And all I wanted to do was live in a cool place with cool people. I mean, these are the books that got me going, actually. Oh no, you can't see that. That's right. I'll show you those later. And all I want to do is live in a cool place with cool people like you guys do. When we went through and sitting in front of lawyers and tax accountants and consultants and stuff, and we spent far too many hours in front of those sort of type of people, we realized we had this model that could be rolled out to anywhere. So if anybody does like the model, we're not trying to make money out of this. This is just, we're trying to get the movement forward. Every time there is a lockdown, every time there is, we're in a housing crisis as well as COVID. This is why I'm sort of doing this webinar, because it's just got too much to sort of do everybody singly. So we're trying to build stuff, and we're trying to live and everything. So, but we're really passionate about the movement. I'll share more about the movement soon. But I'm of the opinion that if you like our model, we have a non-profit. Our land is actually held in the non-profit, and that non-profit, I can help you guys to start a non-profit if you like that model. I'm of the opinion, though, I think one non-profit could support 100 villages or intentional communities, or what do you want to call it. And because running a non-profit's like a business. I'm a business person, and I'm sort of got out of business partly because it's a pain. So it is a bit of a pain. I'd rather have help to run this one organization, and then have other people look support that. So I'll keep going through this. This is our place. 2019, as I said, it could be, hopefully it might go for 300 years. I mean, the great thing about putting it into a non-profits is that you actually take it off the speculative market. It will not be bought and sold now. And ethically, I think that's a really, really smart choice. And our model is unique. There are elements that are not unique, that are tried and true, but it is actually unique. And over the last 2.5 years, anything we're throwing at it, any people were throwing at it, it does stand up. So a little bit about who we are, and we're part of GEN, which is Global Eco Village Network. Has anybody heard of Findhorn community in Scotland? It's not the biggest or best or anything, but it is the sort of flagship community really in the world. Thousands and thousands of people go there every year. Their budget's in the multi-million dollars. They started GEN, and that represents 10,000, just under 10,000 actually. I'll try to get can't find this bit. Can't quite see that side of the screen. It represents 10,000 eco villages around the world, including ours, and it also consults to the UN. So governments are actually ringing up GEN, going, look, we can build anything you want. Anybody can build anything, but how do you build community? That's the key. I mean, and I've always said that people, anybody can build anything. It's very easy to build a house, build a dwelling, but it's not easy to build community. And that's sort of where we come. That's really our strength. This is just a little quick pathway to sustainability. If we start at the bottom, we are eco citizens, and we are starting eco projects, and those eco projects sort of create communities and create eco neighborhoods and then move into eco villages and eco towns and cities, and finally nations and eco civilizations. I mean, who doesn't want to live in a eco civilization? That's surely where we're heading, where we want to head. We've got some big barriers ahead of us, and this is what time and time again, when an intentional community, when an eco village gets a piece of land, they just transform it. I mean, that's from 2006 to 2009 only. It's in Brazil, like desert there, from 2001. That's in Egypt. That you wouldn't even believe that's the same place. You can even see the same building there. That's incredible stuff, you know. And Oroville. Anybody been to Oroville? Oroville is like a eco city. It's about 20. It's made up of many eco villages, as in a sense, but I think they have about, is it 10 or 15,000 people in Oroville? It's in India. It's quite amazing. And this has stopped for some reason. Right. This computer has hung. Okay, and that's us. So that was our dam at the top. It didn't look like a dam, and that was us just last year. So, and it's changed heaps since then. As Kat would see from today, she came along today. So, Eco Villages Australia, we facilitate small communities who want to live collaboratively and sustainably. I mean, that's really our core thing, is that it must be a collaborative project. It must be a sustainable project. In some ways, people say, you know, I say to people, "Oh, I actually live in an eco village," and often they go, "Oh, cool. What's that?" You know, they sort of know it feels cool, but they don't really know what it is. So obviously, I find it easy to say, let's stick with eco, let's stick with village. So let's look at the eco and the sustainability side of it, and in the village side of it, the collaborative side of it. So you can't really go wrong by thinking in those two words, even though many intentional communities are not eco villages. Really, all eco villages are intentional communities. Not all intentional communities are eco villages. There are eco communities. There are co-housing developments and that sort of stuff. So we can achieve better social, economic, ecological and cultural outcomes when a small group of people live on and care for that property. And those four things, social, economic, ecological and cultural, happen to be the GEN areas of regeneration. So the GEN stuff is really powerful. We've got cards that we used in different, you can go to a community, you can go to a business, you can go to a family, and use these cards and see where the blank spots are. And I know in Narara that they're using that a lot with tenure and so forth. I just quickly whiz quick through these social outcomes, you know, connection, zero DV, you know, shared decision-making, feeling of safety, all there. Ecological, less food miles, rich habitat, small carbon footprint, and free local transport. Is that right? I can't see. I've lost my little icon here, but anyway, I think that's transport. So we actually have a small fleet of e-bikes that we won a grant for, and that's the great thing about being a non-profit. You can go for grants. Economic, cheaper living, less bills. So we are aiming for 10% of the water and electricity that people use in our village. So it's very easy to know what people use. It's on the bill. So there's no mortgage for us. There's no landlords. That's really key. The landlord. When I was talking to someone from Crystal Waters, actually they rent and they were talking about their landlord, and it just made me, it doesn't really sit in my body very well, that word anymore. Because we don't have landlords, we are the landlords, we're the tenants. We need different language. In fact, that's why we call it stewardship. We don't even use the word landlords or that sort of thing. So cultural regeneration as well is just more time for caring and rest and relaxation and relationships and community skills development, that sort of thing. So, you know, it's not for everyone, we know that, but collaborative housing is gaining traction. In some ways, if there is a crash coming, then you know, if people aren't ready for it, they might have to get ready for it quickly. But those in community already will definitely have a head start. So the collaborative land model. I'm going to stop screen sharing now, or I'll go to another. Okay, just go to another screen. And so have you found your way around our website at all? So yeah. I'll just quickly go through this. The vision and values are the core things that make an eco-village Australia eco-village, and there's not much there. We are passionate about the stewardship, the collective stewardship of land. You know, if you want to live somewhere in Australia or New Zealand, you know, in the Western world, you've got to own property or you've got to rent it, and there's really no other option. And we're trying to go for this middle way, this what we call stewardship. It's much more in line with First Nations principles that they have a very different relationship to land than we did. I read another book just recently, and this guy said that before 10,000 years ago, there was no archaeological evidence of war, and that's because only around that time, that's when we started putting fences around our properties. That's when we started owning land, and that's when we started warring. So when you don't own land, there's no point in having a war. There are obviously skirmishes and stuff like, you know, humans are humans, but full scale war just that didn't seem to happen before that. Before we put the fences up. Collaborative housing of some type. We have an eco village here. We're in the co-housing type model. But my son lives in a tiny house at the back of a mate's property, and this guy's got an acre, and they've got a small little community there, 2 families, and they love it. It's really, really soul restoring for them. Radical sustainability. We've got you know, the science is clear. With the average Australian anyway. I don't know the New Zealand one figures, but the average Australian pumps out about 15 tons of CO2 every year, and science says we need to get that down to 2. So that's about 90%. And I see absolutely no attempts, or, you know, in real terms, there's people that are trying their guts out, but as a society, there's nothing. We're not getting anywhere near that. And then our legal model, financial model, membership model is all there. And then our village is there at the top. So we've only got the one at the moment. So Maloney, really important to have a look at that community agreements. Now there's some stuff in here that makes us as well, but the community agreements is really, really cool. Have a look at what we've done. So we've got, you know, we ask all the questions, and this is the first step in putting a project together, is go through a document like this. I'll show you where it is, and start ticking and flicking and going, what is it? What do we want? What does our community want? Because, you know, it goes, you know, labor and money and you know, sustainable practices, energy, transport, and then lifestyle. And that's huge, like addictions, alcohol, shared meals, noise levels. You know, there's just there's so much there to think about, whether people want Wi-Fi and this sort of stuff, you know. So it's really worth thinking about those sort of things. So they are our community agreements at Maloney. We also have an addendum for that, for more of the, you know, stuff that people would find boring outside, but, you know, who to ring if the pipes burst and this sort of stuff. You know, we've got all that sort of stuff, and on the end of our community agreements as a bit of a handbook. So it's a really good place to start there. And starting a village, this is where you guys need to really get into this. And we're only just starting. I've only got 2 things up at the moment, but that's that performer there. So community agreements performer, download that. It's a Word document. It's about 11 pages long, and that's where my 3 or 4 page document started. But is your community going to be a spiritual community? You know, is it going to do this? Is it going to do that? And we have we don't have cats and dogs here. We could probably fill this over 3 times over if we did. You might be happy with cats and dogs, and that's your thing. That's fine, you know. But you need to know that sort of stuff. Have those conversations with the small group that you got, or with the founders. And that founder might be one person. I mean, I started it with one person. I started I turned it into a seeding document, what I call the seeding document, and that was a 20-page document with pictures and everything, and people really got behind that, and that's where we are today. So agreements, that's to do with the community agreements, and the choosing your land ownership model. Choosing your model with the land ownership. This is the stuff that we're going to talk about today too. So that's our outdoor kitchen and our ex-chook. Oh, we had to give him away, he's too noisy. So basically, intentional communities land ownership models normally fit into one of these 4 categories. So you don't own the land, collectively steward, collectively owned, privately owned. Okay, so we've actually then, based on these considerations, your group's ethical choices, closeness of your intended community, term of tenure, time frame you have, and your budget. So not owned, most people go, of course we need to own our land, but there are many people that are successfully, like my son. He's on a place, not his. He's just renting to be there. That's what he's got, a tiny house, a little village there. And I've got friends who squat. It's a valid way. I think there's so many empty houses. There's something like I think Australians build something like 150,000 houses a year or something. And that, I think we've got 300,000 houses empty. So it's 2 years of supply that are empty, which is insane. And I've lived in a rental community in Brisbane, and that was a great learning. That was, I always say, if you're interested in community, just do it. Find some community. I mean, there was only 5 of us, and and it was really good fun. And so then I test each sort of model out, ethically, and term of tenure, like security, really. Closeness of intentional community. I'm quite interested in being a close community, so I'm going to mark that as a consideration. Time frame as well. As I said up here, I think, where is it? If you want to start a community with 10, nominally houses with their own kitchens and laundries, expect to be in discussion with council for 10 years. It would also help to have a few $1 million in your pocket, and there is no guarantee of a favourable decision from council. But there are other ways. So I didn't want that. I've been thinking about this for 10 years anyway. I didn't want another 10 years in to actually get this off the ground. So our model is then collectively stewards. So we don't own the land. Nobody owns them. We use a CLT model, a community land trust model. We go a little bit further than the traditional CLT, because we actually don't. The non-profit, the co-op actually also owns the properties as well. Because in many ways we don't have a housing problem in Australia. We've got somewhere between 8 and 14 million spare bedrooms in Australia any given night, and that but we still obviously bulldoze koala habitat to get to build more really substandard housing. They're really crappy housing that they're putting up nowadays. I mean, they'll be lucky to last 10, 20 years, really, some of these stuff. That obviously everybody's paying top dollar for, because it's, that's just what we do. This is, we've scored this quite highly, because we think it actually does. Like I said, it stands up ethically. It's here forever. We are really close knit. Time frame, we got into it. I had a 5-year plan. I got sort of waylaid by 2 years, and we were 1 year early in getting it. So really a couple of years, and that was, it could have been quicker with a bit more coaching, with a bit more help from you guys are probably lucky in a sense that people have, we're not Robinson Crusoe, but the more and more people go that are into this now, there's more and more help out there to help. And then there's collectively owned, and that's where I can't remember his name, was talking about the MOs and strata titles, dual occupancies, all that sort of stuff. Actually, really quite surprised at how poorly that scored from our matrix, was like 40% in there. Really, many communities are working in this way. Many of them are really, really conflicted, and it's not work, but it can work. Certainly, if you're selling lots to people who don't care, as I've said here, would you sell to a rich person who doesn't give a flying fig about community? Most people will go for the big dollars, and they'll sell out to somebody who's wants just a nice place in the nice neighborhood. And over time your community just dissolves basically, or implodes, really. And then there's privately owned, and this is when like I ask here, who would build a house on someone else's private property? As it turns out, many of them are done, and often ends in tears. So it's a good way to start, and especially if you're not building anything, go and drag your tiny house or your tent or something there, get some experience in community, do that, but don't invest too much money in a place that you don't have any control over. Not that we have, I mean, control is a bad word, because I don't, I wanted to put myself into a vulnerable position here. I can be kicked out tomorrow, if and it means that it's really interesting that I might put this. I might stop the share now. It's amazing how money has really impacted our communal life. That people have come to me and said, I've got $200,000, where do I sign? And I always say to people, look, would you ever say that on a Tinder date, on your first Tinder date? Like, I've got $200,000, where do I sign? Like, it's a relationship. These communities are relationship, but we're used to having the money. We're used to just having it as power. Money is energy. It's a power, and we by taking that away a bit, it's really a breath of fresh air. It's a beautiful thing to live in that sort of way. That actually it's my character, who I am, that I bring, not my money. But I noticed some chats here. I'll say, oh yeah, so Kat's been to Oroville. Yep, so a few people have. That's great. Okay, cool. So I think at this point it'd be good to start the question and answers. Maybe we use the chat. It's probably easier to do. So I think though maybe Catherine can do chat. If you put the questions in chat and let's or even just say question and then you can ask it on. Okay, so Jeff wants to know the understanding of the financial structure.
No,
again,
not the financial structure, but the economic structure. So
okay.
I guess how you set up the economy in terms of, if some people are working full-time to maintain the community and other people are working part-time,
yes,
how you balance that in a fair way, that those that are working full-time are economically sort of compensated for the fact that they're giving all their time to that and not being able to participate in a paid workforce.
It's complete gift. So if anybody is giving their time full-time, that is a gift. Okay. So I put pretty much for my full-time in. I do a lot of stuff in town as well. I'm politically active, as well as trying to get things done in the town. But that I learned a lot at Rainbow Gathering, where I met Kat actually. Oh no, I can't remember. I think I met Kat there. Where you give as much as you want to. As soon as I start thinking that bloke over there is not pulling his weight, then I know it's time for me to go and read a book.
So does that have limitations then on what you can do communally in terms of food production?
Look, each community will do their, it's up to each community to work that out themselves, really. So if you decide that you need at least 10 hours a week from a group, every time we talked actual figures that we had no idea about anyway. I mean, most people spend 10 hours a week in the kitchen, if you live by yourself or family, whatever, anyway. But if we said 10 hours a week or something, it just didn't land well. So we've gone more radical in a sense. Since we've been here, we've gone more and more to the gift economy. That anybody puts in what they want. And when this is the thing about 10,000 years ago, when you're in a hunter and gatherer sort of position, there's abundance. The capitalism has given us scarcity. Capitalism has actually taken what was free and then sold back to us. I mean, land was free, water was free, food was free. I mean, this is about where they've taken what was free and then sold it back to us. So we're, in many ways, we're trying to rebalance that a bit.
Well, I more meant it in the sense that if someone's going to dedicate 40+ hours to working the land, producing food for the community, cooking, teaching, whatever for the community, and then they obviously haven't got the time then to go into employment to cover to gain money to pay their rent. And
so we are very much about personal responsibility. If you're not happy to do that, if you can't do that, then don't offer it, or if you have offered it, take the offer back. Like it's, it is about being really in your power, and we use non-violent communication here as best as we can, and that's a really, really important thing. You can't talk about community without talking about people's health. I mean, there is look, this is a really interesting journey. Are there the wrong people for the community? I mean, I think there definitely are wrong people for this community. They're not wrong in themselves. Each community is going to have a different people. It's just like I say, it's a relationship. So relationships, I've had many relationships that I'm not with now, and that's because the relationship failed to work. And so and that's why in eco villages, it's all the good eco villages around the world have this one membership model, and that is it's easy to get it, it's hard to get in, and easy to leave. And an MO is really sometimes murderously difficult to get out of. So we that's a good question to ask how your membership model is, and we've modeled our whole model around that, because if someone needs to go, who knows, life is life, mums get sick, whatever, kids, whatever, you need to go. And in our model, you just stop paying rent. We don't like using the word rent. But if you're trying to create a legacy for your family and your children, I'd like to understand where all that sits. And that's where I feel like a lot of people a lot of my friends who would otherwise do it might be stopped by this model, because they don't feel like they're building the security that they need for their family. Yeah, I think, Charles Eisenstein's book is really, really good in this area. So that changed our views quite markedly. It's called Sacred Economics. It's on the net. It's a gift economy thing. It's a myth that money even is security. It's a myth that land is security, like owned land is security. I mean, Charles Eisenstein, when someone walks up to him and says, well, what do I do with my money? And he said, if you've got money, use it to build community. I mean, you imagine after a crash, the billionaires that have trodden on every single person to get up to where they were will have nothing. Community is the only way, and I love talking. I mean, talking about the legacy for children. I've got 3 children. They're all adults. I feel like I'm giving them a better legacy by doing what I'm doing, showing the way, being ultra, careful with what I purchase and consume and stuff, than anything physical, we've had, my father was born in 1945. I think Kenny Rogers was born in 1945. Kenny Rogers died in 2020. He had the perfect life as far as material goes. I mean, the baby boomers in that age group, had hardly any. They didn't have the world wars. They had very, 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 very good jobs and security and that sort of stuff. It didn't help their happiness. They are quite unhappy group of people. I'm not suggesting materialistic. I was more. No. I know. You wouldn't be here otherwise. But it does. We do know that this model is really challenging. And it's not. And if you want to work and get another, you can afford another investment property or whatever. I mean, we just say there's plenty of ways to make money. This is not one of them. Housing, again, this is a part of the ethical thing. Housing should not be, a wealth creation exercise. That's really one of the big reasons why we're in the trouble we are today. And so, when it was time to do a community, well, I figured the same thing, that it shouldn't be a wealth creation thing. There's practically millions of ways to make money out there. This is not one of them. And I give what I want to give to this community, and this is a really rich and happy life. It's beyond what money can buy, really. I might keep going with questions. So Talalia, is it not? It's not Talia, it's Talalia, I think. Or Lilo, is it Lilo? You've already answered my question. I've also, okay, great. I feel like I've got a lot of security here. I mean, you know, Claire talks about living here till she dies, you know, like she's only young. That's the real gift, I think, of doing something like this. I mean, I didn't move around too much, but the longest I lived in a place was 10 years. I mean, most people only live in a place 10 years. I've helped improve rental properties because that's where I was at the time. Why not improve a property that is collectively stewarded and collectively owned? You know, that's the sort of way I sort of see it. So Rod is asking, did I understand it right, that is it possible to use existing single non-profit on multiple communities' properties? If so, would it mean increasing risk for that little single non-profit if other properties have financial difficulties? Yeah, that's true. So we are in a trust sort of situation. If any of you guys wanted to put another community into the non-profit, then we are trusting you. We would have to get to know you quite well, and because if your project sinks, it could have ramifications for this project. So we do have to be careful. You could, you know, we haven't yet had to do this, so it may well. We might go to our lawyer and say, what do you think is the best way, and you know how to sort of silo these two projects. If we know, I think we can make it work though, because what we're careful not to overcapitalize. The first property we put a offer on, they wanted $2 million. The valuation only came at 1.3. We weren't going to take that risk. So the risk was that if the project didn't work and we had to sell, we'd only sell it for 1.5 and lose $500,000. We weren't prepared to do that. So, you know, that's where the board comes in. So the Eco Villages Australia does have a board. It's not interested in the day-to-day living of each individual community. We don't even think about Eco Villages Australia. It's essentially, Eco Villages Australia does two things. It's a land holding instrument, and it's a membership instrument, who's in and who's out. And actually it takes 2 years, 18 months, 2 years to become a full member of Eco Villages Australia, because some people who front up to the place think that they're better at community than they are. It's actually not. It's not an easy thing, you know. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. You can just move on and do something different, you know. So, to be, you know, that's why we say we don't want your money right now. After 2 years, we might go, okay, well, what have you got any money to? Well, we probably know that anyway, probably. But you know, would you like to make a loan now? And we can build your place. You know, we can, you know, you can design it. Long as the community is happy with that, we'll pay for it, you know, and you know, and when you go, it's available for someone else. So that's the sort of way we do it. There are obviously different models, but I would strongly urge you to go more to the collaborative stewardship or collaborative ownership sort of side of the ledger. Foundation of Intentional Communities, FIC, have a huge amount of resources. They got great online workshops in this area as well. So that's really worth. I mean, you're going to spend a lot of money buying land. You might as well spend, you know, $200 or $300 on some online workshops in this sort of area. So, okay. What Glorious Mermaid says, how can you explain how people pay rent? Do they have separate jobs outside the community? So some do, some don't. So we've had from full-time jobs, people working full-time. Now, what we didn't want to do was, if you do a normal sort of community, and we've got one down the road here, love that community, it's great, not dissing it or anything, but they have freehold. They you know, you buy and sell the lots on the open market. You know, and they did sell their blocks in the 80s for $20,000. Now you can't buy it in there for less than $400, really, $450. So you really are requiring people to go out into the financial market, you know, to make that money. So we didn't really want that. We talk about capacity. So someone who comes along might have $2,000 to loan. Someone might have $20,000. Someone might have $200,000. Someone might have $2 million. And the $2 million person might be just as lonely as a person with $20,000. It doesn't, it's irrelevant. But they have more capacity, they have more financial capacity. And so our model enables people with different capacities to come together and live together, which is really cool. Like an MO, you basically have to say, okay, everybody put in $200,000, $150,000, whatever. And when someone doesn't work out, if we're all in community and you over time say, Andrew, you just can't be here. You're too destructive. You've got too much stuff going on. After I get really angry at you, I say, well, I want my $200,000 back. And when you do that, who's ready with $200,000? Who wants to move into your place? It's very, very difficult. And so that means I can, like someone said before, I can force the sale, or I can just sit and wait there, and you're living for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years with someone that absolutely hates you, and that's not good for community. It's not good for everybody. I think we talk about energy, you want good energy around, you don't want that sort of bad energy. So I think I answered that question. You can ask that again if you like. Talila, I think it is. What are the best things and what are the problems that have come up? Well, the best thing, every single night we have opportunities for conversation, and from people from all over the world or whatever, we have a very rich and and dense life. The fact of working with people alongside those, the projects that you hate doing and that sort of stuff, it's just gold. When that sort of, it's just great. The support that we give each other is fantastic. That's, and the fact that we have one kitchen. So we have I know Kat was saying to talk about more about the expanded house or exploded house. So our model is that we, in fact, are a small community. We are one household on this block. Because if you want, that's why we can do community right now, because we are one household. We're just going to build a bigger house. There's lots of things going against communities in the law, but there's a couple of things going for us, and that is, one, there's no limit to the size of a house. So Pat Rafter, his house is 2,000 square meters. It's huge. Legally, our house, we could build a house on this block, because it's 3.5 acres, of 1.75 acre house. I mean, it's just insane, but put 3 tiny houses on there and council lose their shit. Clearly the laws are really working against us. They're working towards wealthy people who have got lots of money, who want to put the biggest house on the smallest block. That's how the laws work, in this country at least. The things that are working for us is that, we can have a big house. And that second thing that's working for us is that one house doesn't have to be under one roof. So it can be expanded or exploded, or a pavilion style house. And that's what we got here. This is the main sort of house. It's only a 70 square meter place. We've got the community space here. We've got 3 bedrooms there. As we build more bedrooms, satellite bedrooms, these will probably become more like massage rooms or offices and this sort of stuff. So, we are living in a bit of a shared sort of space here at the moment, or the people that live here. That's not our model. That's just because that's all we've got at the moment. We've got a tiny house behind us. We've got another place down there. And that's our model, is that we have these satellite bedrooms, but we have one kitchen. Councils are really, really interested in how many kitchens you got. And we only want one kitchen, because this is now leading to one of the best things of living here, is that we front up every night and there's a meal cooked, and we only have to cook one meal a night for everybody, and that never ever gets old, let me tell you that. So and of course it means that, flexibility, we need to be a bit more flexible, but it's great. It really, really, really is great. So might go back to, so have separate jobs. So some people do have separate jobs. I've had some savings, which I lent to the Eco Village, and then the Eco Village then pays me back over time. And so therefore, what I'm getting paid back is actually more than my rent anyway. So that, if you that for me, that's how I work. I'm a mechanic. I do a little bit of work. I try not to. I'm a masseuse, so I do a bit of work as well. So I do a bit here and there, but sort of the whole idea. I mean, my first year cost me $10,000 for food and accommodation. So that's sort of the whole point. That it's that these this is it's economies of scale. It makes we chuck in $30 a week for the kitty, for food kitty. That's astonishing. But we eat well. I mean that's this is all this is part of the reason we do this this community. But like not everybody is into close community. This is the book I was talking about before, Creating a Life Together. This is like the Bible of if you're going to start a community, make sure you read that, by Diana Leaf Christian. And the next one is Finding Community, and that's if you want to join a community, make sure you read that. And she hasn't missed anything. She's amazing. I can't remember the point that I was going to make about her, but yeah, that's definitely a resource you need to know about if you're going to run a community. So the people in New Zealand are looking at an economic engine of retreats, workshops, online content. Would that still under fall of a not-for-profit if those costs are helping pay the members' rent? Well, I believe so. Like a non-for-profit, I mean, there are people who have been made very rich by charities, which I don't think is that ethical. But not-for-profits still can make. You can make a lot of money. I mean, the CEO of a non-profit can still make a couple of $1 million if they want to. I don't agree with that sort of business model or charity model, but certainly, a not-for-profit simply means that instead of having the profits go to the members, it actually then gets fed back in to the cooperative. What we didn't want, one of the big reasons we chose our model was that we didn't want we bought this for $656,000, this land, in 2019. We didn't want in 10 years' time, I mean, it's paradise now, but in 10 years' time, it's going to be incredible. We didn't want in 10 years' time someone coming along, some developer saying, I'll give you 10 million for it. And there's no reason, like if the economy keeps going well it is, and there's no reason it wouldn't, because we're 7-minute walk to the town in Mullaney. It's a must be sort of place, being gentrified, something chronic, and that if we were a true co-op, we could then go, well, that's 10 million, that's $1 million each. Let's just do it. Whereas we just didn't want that conversation. We did not want the temptation. So if someone comes along and says $10 million in 10 years' time, yes, we could take it, but not one person, whether they're a board member or a member or a whatever, can access that money. So we might end up with $10 million, but we've got to do exactly the same thing with it. So which means we'd have to buy a place, presumably 3 or 4 or 5 kilometers out of town, which means we'd have to buy cars and stuff like that as well. So, it doesn't make sense to do that. So that's one thing we really loved about our model, is that it just takes that temptation away. Like Mullaney was the co-op capital of Australia, if it's not still, but we're losing our co-ops. We sold Mullaney had one of the first bank as a cooperative credit union here, and that just got sold. It was a good sale, but the members are still able to sell that, and the members are still able to profit if they want to. So that's why we didn't want to go for a co-op model. We went with our model instead. Okay, so Desert Rose saying, what are the names of the workshops you recommend? Anything to do with, there's conflict, there's microaggressions going on right now, there's different models. I think just get into it, ask the questions of them, and share that. Get on our Facebook page and share. Can you put stuff on? I think you can put stuff on our Facebook page. I can't remember. But yeah, see if we can share this common information. So this is the great thing about what we're doing. We're not Robinson Crusoe. We're not the first on the scene. And this is what I did. We traveled around the place and found communities, stayed with communities, and we can learn from their mistakes. There's communities here that are 30 and 40 and 50 years old, so we know the mistakes. There is communities that have torn themselves apart because basically they've sold to somebody who doesn't care about community and this sort of stuff. So Jeff's asking about the planning permission to add each satellite room. So that's a good question. The way that we do it, because we are one household, so we could only ever get to about 12, 13 people in this council area. If we wanted to get bigger, then we just build another place. We got 3.5 acres, so we could subdivide and build another place just here, for instance. But it means that we're not doing a DA, we're not doing a development application. That the language might be a little bit different for New Zealand, not sure. But simply normally it's to change what the material use of land is at this stage. We don't need to do that. We just have to put in a building application, which is not council. It's not even council's worry. It's that definitely might be different in New Zealand. I'm unsure about that, but it's in here. It's just a certifier. So a certifier just as long as he's happy with the building, then it gets ticked off. So that's the great thing about our model, really. So the demographics of the community: families, children, older people, younger people. That's a really interesting question. We started with a group that was older. We had about 3 men over 50 in our group, but as we actually, Diana Leaf Christian says, whatever you start with, you won't finish with. Get used to that. You won't end up with the people that are here with you right now. And what we've had about 15 people through here in about 2.5 years, and some of them were short term. Some of them most of them planned to be short term. Some of them didn't. Some of them just didn't work out. But we've had a 2-year-old, we've had 5 years old, 8-year-old, couple of 10-year-olds. We've got one 10-year-old here now. Curiously, the 2-year-old and the mum has gone to North Queensland, and they've left the 10-year-old with us in a really interesting sort of twist, but it's worked out really well for everybody, actually. We've got a couple of 30-year-olds. Actually, there's 4 people between 20 and 30 now, or 32. 4 people there. So we've actually got I'm the oldest one there, so I'm 51. But it's been, we always came to the project wanting sort of diversity. And we've had that, really. We've had the families and all sorts of people, but yeah. David's asking, are there still lets and bunyas in Maloney? Yes, there is. There is, actually. We still got the lets. If anybody doesn't know the lets, local trading scheme, local exchange and trading scheme. We still use that. I've got an account. Anybody would like to? I think that's it for the questions on the chat. Has anybody else got some questions that they can go verbally?
I had one about, I was just reading through the kind of the economics of it, and how you are, how everybody's contributing, and there was a little bit of confusion around just the language about being a resident. What's the difference between a resident and a non-resident, and a provisional member and a full member?
So what we do is, in order to give membership only for people who have been, the sort of 2-year period or 18-month 2-year period, we then need to give them provisional membership. So provisional membership means you're here, you live here, but you're not a full member. You don't get to vote at the meetings and that sort of thing, and you also don't pay the full amount. In this village we charge about $2,500 for the total sort of fee. The first $500 is a non-negotiable one that we put that into a pot, and that is to help train people, get people out in the sticky situations. So we've actually had to use that here. We've had, actually, I think I must have missed the question. Someone was talking about conflict and so forth. Wild Desert Rose said that. So we have had conflict here, and we've had conflict that we couldn't get out of ourselves. So we had the money there because everybody bringing $500 to the pot, and we got someone in to help us resolve that sort of thing. So conflict is, it's really interesting and being part of GEN, the Global Eco Village Network. They see that that we have a uniquely Australia has this unique fear about conflict for whatever reason. I don't know why. Mainly maybe because we have got a lot of conflicted communities up northern New South Wales from the Aquarius festivals and that sort of stuff. But there's this, it is overrepresented. The fear is overrepresented as far as other communities. Like someone mentioned Denmark before, they just get in and do it. 30% of people who live in Denmark live in co-housing. Live in co-housing. So they know how to do it. So that's really what that provisional membership just gives us a little bit of time to get to know people. We really do need to know people over a season, and that's not us saying we need to know you. It's the relationship, it's a relationship. So it's two-way. It's a do we all fit here?
Sorry. So you start as a resident, and then after 2 years you go to being a provisional member.
So as soon as you become a resident, you become a provisional member.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then after 2 years, you're a full member.
Full member, yeah.
And then you can then you have a say in how the excess money is used within the community. It's only really for Eco Villages Australia. So we give everybody, whether even people here 2 days, we'll give them decision-making rights. Okay.
Because we do a consensus. Everything's by consensus here. So it really is only when you get to the Eco Villages Australia, which is the parent body or the supporting body. That's the membership of that body. So there is the Eco Villages Australia supporting the community. So the community itself, collaborative budgeting and collaborative decision making, that happens from day one. Though that could be different in your community. You could say, you could get a slight different model than us. As long as it's collaborative decision making, we don't really care what type of decision. It could be sociocracy, could be consensus, could be modified. We use a modified consensus. But we do consensus till it hurts too. We really go hard at trying to get consensus. Otherwise you become sort of two. We're not trying to make two classes of members. Particularly when you're living here. Anybody who lives here, we got someone right next door here. She's been here 2 weeks and she has as much say over what's going on as we do.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Jeff has a question.
Do you want to go back over Dominic's question first? The Wild Desert Rose, she had a question. And did you get around to answering
the resolving the conflict? I think I scratch the surface maybe, but I think in some ways most of the conflict that happens in communities is structural. So the structure is actually it's built to fail. So the community, one of the big communities that's close to us, is based on body corporate. Body corporate was never meant, like strata title. I think that New Zealand has a slight different title word, but I think you might get the gist. That was meant for people in the city in unit blocks that hate each other, trying to work out whether to put in a spa or something. That's what it was never meant to be for community, and so they've had a lot of problems over the years with that structural problem, and you can't fix structural conflict. It's right there at the base. That's why getting it right is really important. Right at the start, really need to get it right. In fact, when we were building our foundations, we met with a lawyer. We didn't mean to. We just were at a thing, and he's a old hippie lawyer from New South Wales, involved in many of the conflicts up in the northern New South Wales. And he said, if I was going to do a community right now, I would do it as a company limited by guarantee as a non-profit. And that's exactly what we'd done 2 months earlier. So, we got really good advice from our lawyer, which was great. So I think that you've really got to think through and ask people that have been around for a while, where will this lead? What does this place look like in 30 years time? There's a place called up at Kinkin at what's it called, Kookaburra Park, deeply divided community. And that's because it's freehold, and they just, and it really probably was a bit of a developer-led thing in the first place anyway. It really wasn't a thing that bubbled up from the ground. What we really want to do is advocate for projects that are real intentional communities, and go to governments and say, this is a real one. This is a collaborative group of people who want to work together, because every group that wants to do any sort of collaborative housing, whether it's like eco-villages or co-housing, come up with the same problem. I talked to our architect not too long ago, and she said, I've done three of these things and all of them have failed. They never got off the ground, so we are up against it. We have to be a bit creative, but yeah, keep asking the questions. So
my question now was about if we were to say join in under your non-for-profit.
Yep.
Our limiting factor, we could actually be on land by next week, or
yes,
whatever time expires to be allowed onto the land. But the issue holding us back is liquidity. So we've got people owning houses, but we can't free our capital until we've got moved out of them.
Yeah.
If we were to join under your model, or like not just a copy of your model, but under your model.
Yes.
Do you have the capacity for providing early liquidity to get the land?
Not yet. I mean, in 20 years' time, we might,
okay.
or whatever. It's possible that we could get a bank loan as well. If the numbers looked right, it's possible. We were able to not get a bank loan, which is great. I mean, in many ways, if we had more money, we would have bought the wrong property, and that's truth. We actually would have bought the wrong property if we did. So.
Maybe we can have a chat afterwards.
Yes.
One on that topic.
Yes.
We do have a property in mind, and we know how much it costs and all that, and we have an idea. And that's basically our stumbling block. We only have about a third of what we need, about 300 up front. We have probably just under 100.
Yes.
But the rest of the project is fine, because we have all the money. As soon as we're on there with caravans and tents, we can sell the houses and free the capital to actually repay anything we would need to borrow and pay for the rest.
We have potentially a considerable amount of money once everybody sold their houses. So we already have a core group of people, and we can pay it off very quickly once they are sold, which we want to move fast, while we can still sell our houses.
Yes. That's why
they're all stolen from us anyway. So.
Yeah, apart from climate change, that's why I'm looking forward to 20 years' time, because we, I can see that we would have some money there, to help other groups. We went to visited a co-housing group, co-housing in South Hobart. Has anybody been to the South Hobart co-housing places? They've got two there. They started from the same group, and they realized pretty quickly that they had two different ideas, so they split and they created two projects, which is great. They're within 400 meters of each other. They're great. One of them is owned by people. The houses are owned by the people who own it, and then the other one is owned collectively. And what we found was that the ones that were owned privately they were rich people, but a poor community. And what we found with the other one was that they're very poor people. In fact, you have to be poor to go in there. You have to have less than over 30% of your income being used on rent and this sort of stuff. You have to be quite poor, or in the to get in there. And yet they are a very rich community. They've bought two houses in the same time as the other. Like, they started at the same time, within a year of each other. They're probably about 20 years old now. And within 17 years, these guys, the poor people but the rich community had two houses under their belts. It was incredible. The model matters. And in the rich people, sometimes their meetings they're whinging and about someone putting a electric bike on common property, because using 3 cents of electricity, this sort of stuff. We're not Robinson Crusoe. We have got these models we can see how they're working. So I definitely encourage you to keep on doing that. Yes, financial pressure does destroy creativity. You're right. And like I said, like we've our model is that someone with more money can put the lion's share in. That's what I did. I've got more money loaned for me. I'm a mechanic. I have a successful mechanic business. But as people come along, and someone might come with $100,000 and put $100,000, and that'll knock mine down $100,000. So you can see over time, it's like a rolling loan. It's like this loan that equalizes out over time. But also someone may not have anything to give, and that's okay. Like that, they might not have financial capacity, but they might have the intellectual or the emotional capacity of an oak tree, or but the financial capacity of a blade of grass, and that's okay. That's how nature works. It's all in balance. It's all in flow.
Well, I think it's amazing what you've done. Sounds fantastic.
Thank you.
Very keen to keep researching this, because it seems like this satellite rooms is a good way to get going for people.
Yes. Well, it is. It's because I just, like I said, I didn't have the patience to wait 10 years. I wanted to do it now. There were other options. There are communities like Narara or Crystal Waters. You could become a community inside that community. So but that's a possibility too. So, Rod said, "Is there an estimate when loans are paid off?" Well, I signed mine for 10 years. So we've got a loan deed, and that was I signed it for 10 years. So I'm expecting my cash back in 10 years. And by the way, at that point, I'll have all my money back, and I'm still living here. In what universe does that happen? Normally, if you buy a place, you've either got the money or the house. You don't have both. So at that point, I can do it again. I could say, well, let's buy next door neighbor's place. That's all completely possible. Or let's start a business, or whatever. So it's really quite unique in that way.
Do you worry about the coming decade, about high inflation and your capital being destroyed in value over that period if there's no interest at all involved?
So just Jeff knows something that most people don't hear. We've loaned our money at 0% interest. That's not that's not inherent in our model. If your group thinks that they need to spend 3 or 5% or whatever, then that's up for consideration. But we followed Charles Eisenstein's lead there, and he said, if you introduce interest into a system, you introduce the need for growth. And why would we? The need for growth is actually killing our planet. Why would we do that to our own project? So I'm really glad we did that. I'm a business person. It was insane. It was insanity to even think of that, but I did it. Some of the people have been critical of our model in this sort of area, saying that, when you get out, you've got less money, less capital. I had a job. We were paid the average Australian wage, so about 50 grand when I was there, and we all did it, but we all got a house as well, and that was part of the package. And some people came out of retirement with nothing. They had just spent their money as if it was just, they didn't think about having to buy a house after the job. That's not the employer's problem. Yes, I'll have less capital if I don't won't work or whatever. True, but that's not the model's problem. I mean, I can gain that. I can go out to work, or whatever. But I just know that this life, and it's taken me a few years to get used to. I'm still really getting used to it in many ways. But this is how we're meant to live. We're not meant to be commuting and it's just, this is good. This is a good life. So Ellie said, Jenny, not paid interest, but it does offset. Yeah. So the amount of money that I've paid, that I've lent to the organization, yes, does offset my rent quite easily.
But it does have relevance to your retirement. Like if I take $100,000 that was going to be my superannuation, and it sits there without any interest for 10 years or maybe longer, what's 100,000 going to be worth in 10 years?
Well, if
at the rate they're printing money, it'll lose half its value, and it's not going to last me very long in retirement.
Yeah.
That's kind of angle I'm thinking of it. I'm not thinking of it from an angle of profiteering.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. Well, like Glorious Mermaid just sort of said, that. I don't intend to retire. Like I'm not doing that. It's I just intend to live in abundance as a.
You better not upset her. She might push you down the stairs.
So it is a different. It really, one of the Gen playing cards that we use is, it's redefine the concepts of wealth, work, and progress. We really do have to redefine these things. Not saying that I'm not silly. I'll still have some money, but I mean, in many ways, I always said as well that this model works before and after the crash. So it makes financial sense before it. If you like I said, the 0% interest thing, don't get caught up on that. If your group thinks that they can get away with charging interest, then do it. Like that's not get away with it. That's bad language. But if your group thinks that they can handle that your project will make the money back and do that, that's fine. That's not inherently. We would encourage it. I'm looking for people like me who've got some money, who are middle class. I mean, someone mentioned this before that they'd wanted to turn this into mainstream. So do I. I would love for mainstreamers to get onto this and see the value. I mean, we talk about the 7 forms of capital. In our world, we know 2 forms of capital really well. We know financial capital and material capital. So get a good job and buy lots of shit with it. That's the 2 things we really are good at in our world. And yet we've got so much more. We've got experiential capital. We've got spiritual capital. We've got social capital. We've got natural capital. All these different capitals, and people swap. This just took me a while for my mind to get around. People swap financial capital for experiential capital every single day of the year. We go overseas holiday. We spend $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 sometimes. Some people, and this is just financial capital being converted into experiential capital. So what I'm doing is just converting my lost interest, if you want to really call it that, into my other forms of capital. And that's what makes me so rich. So it's for me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, people say, well, why would you do it? What incentive is there to lend? Well, if I don't lend, it doesn't happen. I don't get to live like this. That's the incentive. Yeah. Rod says, do you plan to have an income in the community by common business or food production apart from rent? I would love to see that. I mean, 90% of communities fail, 90% of businesses fail. So to start your community relying on a business is really hard work. You're going to have to really, it's hard work to do both of those things. I can see that in the future that as we get more established, and already we've seen it. I mean, we spent a lot of time building this house or repairing this house, and as that's finished now, we've got more time for playing games and community but also making money if we want to do it. It has changed our views of money. I mean, we don't want to do something just because it makes money. We certainly want to make it ethical, something that change. And the trouble with this sort of lifestyle is that we have a composting toilet that costs us like $150. You can't make a lot of money, or you just tell other people how to make that, like out of a bucket. It's a lot of these simple technologies are not conducive to making a lot of money, which is sort of the whole point. Capitalism is about trying to, it drives you into the ground thinking that you are not good enough, and what you need is this. And this is only $9.95 from Demtel. You know, like that's what capitalism is. It tells us that we are that it gives us this deep dissatisfaction on who we are as people, and then sells us something to fix it up. So this project really does challenge that. It says what we are not our bank balance. That's we are fully human. We are human. This is a very human scale project, which is what I love. I mean, co-housing has this sort of thing that we keep our cars, it's car free, and inside it's human scale. I love the word human scale. It's soul restoring. It's walking, it's cycling, and it's slow. It's much slower, and it takes a while to get used to that. David King says, do you have suggestions as to how to find other people in my area that might be interested in exploring community? I can't have a community of one. Some people have I think, would be happier in a community of one. From experience. Yes, definitely. We can help there, because we've got a database of around. We've probably had about 4,500, 5,000 people on our database and on our mailing list. So we do try to keep that really lean, actually. So, but we have people all over Australia, even around the world, on our list. And the last time someone was interested in a community in North Brisbane, I just put out I just sent out an email to the North Brisbane people and said, who is interested in a place here? And I got 15 people that said yes, me. And this is not my IP. I don't hold tightly onto those people. I just sent the emails on. They can do whatever they want with those people, and they can, I don't need to control the whole system and that sort of stuff. So I think that's where Eco Villages Australia is actually really, really valuable. Actually, we've got quite a big reach. I think we've got a really, not that we really set out to do this, but we've got a really good brand, and people know us, and there's a lot of people that are looking on, and we can help. If you get to the point where you've done your community agreements, and that, like say, the community agreements might be a community of one, that's a good start. And then I tick, when I was doing it myself, I just ticked the box, happy for the community to decide on this one. I didn't have a strong thing either way on certain issues. Like for us, some issues was just like, I don't care. It doesn't really worry me. So let the community, like smoking. We left smoking. That for instance, that was a community decision when we got into community. I didn't really want to feel like I wanted to put another rule out there. So I just let the community decide. In the first couple of months, we decided that we would not do smoking on this property, which is not we're only 80 meters wide, and so if you really need to smoke, you can go somewhere else, into the street. But just the idea there. So certainly we can certainly help you out there, David. That's one thing we do. Rod also said, how do you imagine evolution of the community in 20, 30 years in Maloney? What's the end goal, so as to say? I suppose, again, the whole growth paradigm, we don't really talk about end goals, but I could imagine that we do buy a place next door, and that becomes another little mini community. We could have another 6 people there or 8 people there, and then another place down the in fact, we could, this movement could expand just over sheer time. That we are able to buy more properties and have more people in community. I think that's really possible and probable. So the timeframes and costs involved with setting up a trust and not-for-profit. That's why we went. One of the reasons we went our way as well. We only needed 3 people. We could do it very quickly. So within a matter of months, and we probably didn't even try really hard. So you can do that really quickly. But like I said, if you, I suppose you're in New Zealand, aren't you? So we'd have to look at that to see if you could do Eco Villages Australia. We might have to change the name. Eco Villages New Zealand or Australia, like ANZUS and that sort of stuff. So that model can be done really quickly because it's a company, and you just have to get the send the company constitution off and get it approved and that sort of stuff. So it goes really quickly. Thank you, Hayley. I think she might have gone already, but yes, and the audio. The audio should be available. It is recording, so I'm hoping that I'll get to link to that so I can put that out where. Let me think about that one. Yeah, email. Maybe if everybody could email me, I'll put. You should. It's pretty easy to find my email, but live@ecovillages.com.au. That is that. Oh, spelling wrong there. Villages, not with a W. Eco Village 8. Yeah, I like that. That's good. Yeah, dual name. Okay, great. Any last comments, questions? Something I didn't quite get to?
Yeah. Thanks for all your efforts. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. It's inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really good to hear from you and for your enthusiasm. And there's so much opportunity. The world's looking brighter.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, it's excellent, Andrew. Thank you so much. I love the model. I'm like convinced.
Yeah.
Fully convinced.
Yeah.
I lived in some Aboriginal communities, I had the honour and pleasure to, and they have the same mentality. That culture is very similar to this. So I really understand it.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's the only way forward. I can't see our Western culture working out very well without it, really.
Yeah. Yeah, in some ways, that's what I am looking back 10,000 years to see what would we do, we do then.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very, very much.
No worries. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Nice to meet you all.
Yes. See you later. Thank you.
See you.
All right. Bye.